Hello, 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 and welcome to the RuPaul's Drag Race All-Stars Season 10, Episode 9, RHAPup here on RHAP We Know Reality TV. I'm one of your hosts, Beth Dixon, and this week we were going to be discussing the last episode of Bracket 3 before the merge, the whatever you call it at this point, the jury. I don't really know what we're going to call it here. But I am excited to break it all down with Aman Adwin, who is joining me as always. Aman, how are you? And what do you think about the end of Bracket 3?
I'm glad to be at the end. It's been an interesting journey. And like we've sort of been talking about this whole time, we got to see 3 different groups of people interact with each other and interact with the strategy or the format of the competition. And I feel like we've gotten interesting results each time, which is why I can understand why a lot of people are very much into this format, not only because it gives you more time with certain queens because there's less people, but also just the difference in the variability and how people are going to behave and how it brings some drama and an intrigue. So yeah, but I'm glad that we are finally at the point where we know who is going to be in the running to get to the end. And it's going to be full steam ahead going forward with a lot. You could tell people have already sort of commented that, you know, a lot of people, it's obviously been a minute since they were like a minute since the first time that they shot in the brackets to when they actually shot the 9 together, because people look a lot different than
I was going to say Slim Fast don't work that fast. But then I thought Ozempic does. So, I mean, here's the thing. And of course, this is not us in any way body shaming. This is us just, you know, either before, after, or wherever. I think, you know, it's just, I didn't know that there was that much time that was shot in between as well. So when they showed the preview, I was like, whoa, okay. Because at this point, if you're watching the podcast, hopefully you already know we're going to spoil the crap out of everything right now. So, starting with who is moving on in the purple bracket, which is going to be Ginger Minge, who looks very different in the preview for next week, and had lost a significant amount of weight. And then we also have Diabetes, who looks great. And then Cynthia Lee Fontaine sneaks her way into the final 3 despite not actually winning any of the challenges. Denali, who did win a challenge, does not move forward. And so I don't know how you feel, Aman, but I just generally felt like this bracket was kind of a blend of how the first 2 brackets went down. Like there was a little bit of strategy from the bottom queens in a way that seemed very orange bracket, like, hey, we love you, sister, we're going to do this thing, but also had a little bit of the pink bracket kind of mind games of sorts, but like just not as personal as the pink bracket got. But I don't know, like, do you agree with that? Do you think that, like, oh no, you're just like...
it's very interesting. I mean, I feel like it kind of sort of reminded me a little bit of just how society can sometimes be set up, where you have people that are sort of in power or privileged, as it were, whatever term you want to use. And then the people that are towards the bottom have to get like this little movement going to have a spot at the top. And I feel like that's sort of what happened here. Now, obviously, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio with how society works, but I think it's just like indicative of, I think the queens can sometimes look at judging and be like, well, if I am going to have a shot here to influence how these results are going to come out, I'm going to take it, because I don't necessarily believe in everything that the judges or the powers that be have set up here. So
Aman. Amen. We have been waiting for 8 all-star seasons for the queens just to say they are old. They are not as involved with the current drag themes. They are not XYZ, right? They are the past and the important pavers of success and absolutely are a part of the highway system, but they are not the new cars on the highway using it. Okay. So it is absolutely, I'm just waiting for the queens to come out and say, okay, sometimes judging fairly is listening to what the judges say and then looking with my own 2 eyes and ears and going, I see something different. I don't agree with that. I hear it and I respect it, but that's not it. But we don't get that. And there's always a part of me in the back of my mind that's like, do you think RuPaul has bugged all of their like houses in like all these different places? And it's just like, if you even dare suggest in a confessional or an interview or whatever, I will know about it. And I will send people to, cut up your wigs at night. Right? Like, is he threatening them? Like, why aren't people just coming out and saying it? You're drag queens. I don't agree with what the judges say. I'm going to put you in the bottom because I thought you sucked.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a little bit of that going on, and we know why, because it's people want to have the shot to come back, but obviously,
you're already back.
More and more time that goes by,
Ginger Minge.
These, there are other opportunities that arise from being on Drag Race. So, Drag Race, sometimes you can be one and done on Drag Race and still be successful in other realms of show business if that's what you want, or just in other realms of being a drag queen and being paid for it if that's what you want. So I think, thankfully more people have been a bit more vocal. I mean, even Denali today, I think literally today I was on Twitter earlier and she, people were talking about how they believed her to be robbed in all of this. But Denali was like, I could have chosen to continued on with this mindset of I'm robbed, this was not fair, or I could just simply choose to be happy for Cynthia, who we would all agree obviously deserves the shot to have to be in the running to win All Stars 10, just based off of how everyone feels about her, because yes, it is RuPaul's show and he can do whatever he wants to do, but a piece of it, I think a piece of all of these competitions does have to do with how you treat people, how you engage in the community, who you are as a person. And Cynthia, clearly, no one has a bad word to say about Cynthia. So yeah, I could either choose to be bitter or I could choose to be happy about it. And as an addendum, if I were like some other kind of hee ha ha cuckoo queen, like a Jimbo making some of the jokes that I did, then I'm sure RuPaul probably would have landed me in the top for that challenge, but he didn't. So Denali herself is speaking out and being like, yeah, guys, like I'm aware of how RuPaul judges and how it isn't sometimes
1000%.
consistent. So, they out here, they're talking, and, I at least, that made me feel a little better about the situation because, sometimes you do feel like as a fan, like you don't want to complain too much because you do want to engage in the conversation surrounding how many opportunities do these queens get to just be on TV in the first place, right? Like you want to just be a cheerleader, but it does make me feel good that yes, the queens also do agree with us a lot of the time where it's like, I mean, yeah, we are happy that you're on TV, but like now that we're on TV, let's move to the next step in making the show enjoyable in a way that doesn't make it as predictable as possible, in a way that doesn't have us always analyzing the consistency behind judging and spotting favoritism and all of that. So yeah, I mean, it's a very layered conversation, but I'm just, I'm glad for Cynthia, and I'm glad that Denali appears to be in a good place about it, but is also enough, real enough to be like, yeah, bitch, like, yeah, I feel like I probably should have won that, but that's okay.
Let's be honest though. How many queens have come back more than 2 times that the fandom is genuinely collectively in the majority, like so stoked they're coming back? Yeah. I think literally the only person, and this is a maybe, would be Jujubee. I think the fandom is never upset to see Jujubee come back because we know what we're going to get. I mean, it might be from a look perspective ever so slightly elevated from the last 20 times that Jujubee was on. But we don't watch Jujubee for fashion. No. We want Jujubee in the confessional. We know that they're going to be an incredible performer and an incredible TV personality, right? Yeah. And that they are able to then take it and say, I like traveling, I like doing my job, and I also like living in Boston with my cats and having a life. So I like that we get Jujubee on almost Jujubee's terms in a way, right? But there aren't other queens that I think collectively people are really excited to see come back more than 2 times. So if you are a queen that is invited back more than 2 times, you probably already have some level of success off the show that the show is trying to capitalize on, right? You're popular enough on social media, you're popular enough with tours, or RuPaul loves you, in which case that also helps your popularity. Is a double-edged sword, right? I would argue you don't want to be the queen that is just begging to keep coming back on Drag Race. So it is very much about just appreciating the time that they have on the show. And it is so much better to be remembered as a robbed queen than as one that quote unquote didn't deserve it. And I'm not saying that Cynthia didn't deserve it, because I would argue, like Aman, like she could have won last week's challenge, no problem. Okay. Why are we sitting here pretending like, oh yeah, the top 2 winners are always who everybody thinks it should? We have a whole podcast every week where you and I talk about how we don't agree with the judges and shit, right? So it's so funny when people become mathematicians in like revisionist history. Well, you only won 2 challenges. And it's like, yeah, but that's debatable, you know?
Right.
There's plenty of seasons where I could have gone back and went, you know what? Manila won a lot of challenges that I feel like, you know, Naomi could have won this challenge instead. You know, all those different seasons, you're going to find something like that. So I kind of like that the brackets at the very least are like a mini season within a bigger season, because you're signing up for only the best parts of Drag Race. You don't have to worry about being eliminated. You know you will be on for at least 3 episodes, so you have a guarantee. Come out there, serve cunt, show pussy, do your whole thing, and you're going to kill it. Like, that's what Denali did. I don't think Denali slipped up, quite frankly. She might not have done as well as somebody else, but I think she gave it her all, and she did damn fucking well at this time. So she's going to always go down as one of the best to ever win. And every time someone like Ginger comes back out, I love her, that diminishes her title every single time she comes back, because they're like, girl, you had 4 seasons.
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know. That's my little rant about it, because I do think that the queens are starting to be like, you know, fuck the fandom. I'm just going to say how I feel. Fuck the production. I'm just going to say how I feel. And good. We don't matter. We don't do drag. Don't listen to us. We're doing it because we like to talk about it. So anyway.
I mean, it kind of leads into like what happens at the top of this episode, where, you know, we have a conversation between Daya and Alyssa about how they're supposed to deliver the points to one another, and Daya got very hung up on the semantics with Alyssa about consistency, about who she's going to award her point to, who deserves the point more. And in Daya's view, consistency meant consistently doing the best, as
track record
determined by the judges. Whereas with Alyssa, she said, who I believe to be performing consistently and who I believe to be doing the best. And last time I checked, Alyssa isn't RuPaul. Alyssa isn't Michelle or Law or T.S. Madison.
She is Ross Matthews, though. So
hilarious. Ross Matthews. So yeah, so it's like, but the thing about Daya that really annoyed me was you also gave your point to Cynthia.
Girl. You know this about me, Aman. I love a queen who is like 90% right, but then that petty 10% takes over. Daya is that queen. Alexis Michelle is that queen. I love that delusional, really good at drag, but like scorned lover kind of drag queen. They're like my favorite personality to watch, because I am simultaneously so annoyed and then also like, bitch, I probably would be thinking the same thing. I might not be doing the same thing, and I have done the same thing before, but I would be thinking the same thing. So it's refreshing to see somebody just say it out loud, right?
Yeah.
Daya was doing the most this episode, saying, it's like, instead of opening your ears to hear Alyssa say, girl, I thought Cynthia was better in this way. I am not going off of the judges. I'm going off of this. I'm not going off a track record. I'm going off of who I think this. And if that doesn't align with yours, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can be upset that I don't think the same way as you. but that's the game, honey. That's life. And I lived for Alyssa just being like, and also she never said, yeah, Di, I'm going to give you my point. She said, yeah, I'm going to give it to the person I feel like I've done. She knew what she was doing. Alyssa knew what she was doing. She was going to cover them bases. She was going to make, you know what? I'm going to sneaky say this is somebody that way dark horse pick to be on the Trader someday. Nobody would see Alyssa Hunter coming. Hey, she would fade into the background, but she would.
I'm here for it. I mean, I feel like the Traders should just have a spot for a Drag Race girl every season, to be honest. it should just be a given. The same way that y'all just be having given Big Brother and Survivors
on one season. If you're gonna have 3 housewives, imagine having 3 drag queens.
Yeah, put them all in there, throw them in there, see what happens. I'm here for it.
Do it.
But yeah, like Daya, I mean, I understand the frustration because you are feeling like, oh well, it's always it's a convenient argument for you who is in the top consistently, right? Like you are not receiving negative critiques because you weren't necessarily in the top last time. You just didn't get a bad critique. So of course for you, it's easy to fall back on that argument. But if you truly thought that, then why give your point to Cynthia? Oh, I know why, because Cynthia was going to give her point to you. So for you, it's just all about what's going to help me in the long run, which is how most people are going to play the game. So
just own up to it.
Just own up to it. And I understand the pressure of needing the point or whatever, even though it was really just a 1 point difference. So girl, what are we really arguing about? But I mean, I get it. I mean, I understand that. But then also, why not give your point to Denali if you really feel like it should be about consistency, right? Like, why not give her the point? Oh, you don't want to do that because Denali's close.
Why not give your point to Ginger?
Right.
She's the most consistent person according to the judges.
Right.
So why are we giving our point to people who are not in the top?
Yeah.
If you're going to go off of that, right? What I love about this format is that becomes not just drama in the episode, but it's something for us as the audience. It's like Drag Race is like, you know what? Y'all can't agree on anything, so you're going to get it all anyway. The queens don't agree. They're going to get on television. So I genuinely, I'm thumbs up on this format so far. But I can't wait to see how the rest of it goes, because if this all turns out in like a really lame, predictable walk to the crown for like a Ginger or somebody like that. If Ginger wins, but it's like a well thought win, I will respect and love that so much, right? I love Ginger, that kind of thing. But if it is just like a Sasha Colby meet and greet-esque kind of feel where it's just like, let's just lay out the carpet for someone to win, that's gonna be lame. And then it's like, why did we even have the brackets? But this is leading up, as I look forward to next week, we have Aja, Bosco, and Irene the Alien from the first bracket, who haven't been on television in a month, right? So excited to see them come back because they were all killing it. And then you've got Mistress, Lydia, and Georges, who's like the mixed bag of chaos and RuPaul favoritism and also genuinely doing well, having confidence and don't care. That's amazing energy. And then you've got Ginger, Daya, and Cynthia, who is like the biggest mixed bag of how people are doing in the competition in so many different ways. So I'm like really excited. This has the potential to be amazing. We already see that there's like potential drama that Mistress is trying to stir up already. Yeah. And I think this could be the beginning of like her demise, or it could be like the beginning of her just like being a super villain who wins or something, you know, like either way, I'm entertained.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good time regardless. And yeah, I do think how all of these queens got to the final 9 is going to be interesting as we match them up. Because obviously some people are coming into it with narratives of, oh, you were kind of just giving it the sympathy, or actually, no, you were a bit of a juggernaut, or no, that you're coming into it with favoritism. So I feel like it's a varied entry point for a lot of these queens. So I think in that respect, at least I feel like things theoretically level out, because while there are some clear front runners, I do think that obviously there is still some time left for a dark horse to make a run. That being said, I still don't think that's what's going to happen because that's just how RuPaul be RuPaulin. But I won't belabor that point as much. I just wish sometimes because I think that production, I think that they're clued in obviously on how people receive their show, and I think a lot of the time they purposefully edit the shows in ways that spark debate.
Mm-hmm.
They purposefully do not show us what we should be seeing, or it's just straight up favoritism. Because there are plenty of times where I will see the performance of a queen, this particular challenge today, actually, where Daya wins this challenge. What we saw from Daya in The Bachelor, the Golden Bachelor, as she's supposed to be literally the bitch, it was not, I didn't laugh once. It was not funny. Like the best parts of her performance were when she had like a bit of time to script it and she was talking to it was the confessional parts. Arguably, that was the best part of all of their performances, right?
It was amazing. I literally watched and I was like,
so either
they're so in it physically, but that's it. It was amazing. Yeah.
Either we're seeing, or either we're not seeing what the judges are seeing when it came to like how funny Daya was, because that's what they said at the end, was that it was very funny. It was a really well thought out character. She was funny the whole time. Okay, if that's the case, where was the funny? Because I didn't get it. There were other parts that were edited from other packages for the queens that were funnier to me, that I laughed at. I laughed at Denali more than I laughed at Daya.
Mm-hmm.
I even laughed at Cynthia more than I laughed at Daya.
So I laughed at Acid.
I laughed at Acid more than I laughed at Daya. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like production, they're clued in on what's going to spark debate. And so, again, that's why I'm like, I hate sometimes the spoon feeding of it, because it's like, if Daya did good, then just edit it that way. If she did good, then edit it that way, so that we're not sitting here feeling disjointed from what the narrative is. It's just a weird thing. But then again, I understand it from a business perspective, because then it just gets people talking, and it's just cultural currency for the show itself. So I understand the game. It's just an annoying game, right?
It's the equivalent of like all the like new era Survivor twists, and oh, we have the time turner, and like, do we like that or not? And then it's like all of these different shows who have been around for a while find their way to like try to change it up so it doesn't get boring, right?
Yeah.
And it's like so interesting that I think they use feedback from like 2 seasons ago to do something now. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, they're like, okay, so what are we testing, so to say, for like 2 seasons from now, right?
Right.
So I think that like, I don't think of things as like, it doesn't feel like they've just pulled something out of their ass and just are doing something. It always feels like calculated to gauge the barometer of how much is Drag Race in the, especially at a time when drag and trans and LGBTQIA plus people in this country are being, attacked. I think that it's always, you're going to have those marketing professionals and everybody who are on the production who are going to be helping to make some of these creative decisions and saying what keeps people interested, what keeps people engaged with this community and humanizes them, so that maybe it will help things at home, but also money. So we need people to not actually be perfect saints, because they're also drag queens. And it's so fascinating, because I definitely see all of that. But is that mosquito back?
No, it's just a gnat this time, thankfully.
I was like, oh my God, our paid actor is back. Let's go.
The gnats can live. The mosquitoes must die.
That's right. That's right. So yeah, I think that, we'll talk a little bit about the last bracket again, just at the very end of our recap here. But as you said, this episode's really about them passing out their points in the very beginning and then getting into the improv with the Golden Bachelor. Shout out to Zane, by the way. I think that he did a pretty good job as an actor, and like, if anything, I thought that he was probably the most entertaining one. And maybe it's just
that
because,
often ends up being the case. Yeah,
I know. I loved like Jeffrey Boyer Chapman when he did the Bachelor back in All Stars 3 as well. And I love this challenge as a concept. And I even loved, I haven't been big on like when RuPaul makes them like be an animal or a baby or whatever. Like that stuff I'm always like, or like remember when the Teletubbies were on Drag Race like a couple seasons ago?
Oh yeah, that was
like,
a little strange.
Some of that stuff I'm like, I don't know if, and it has nothing to do with me being like, I don't think we should conflate it with children. It's just like, I don't find it entertaining. I feel like we're like Nickelodeonizing too much.
Yeah.
But
it's also like,
I thought was pretty good actually.
Yeah, it's not like we're saying that like we're against drag queen reading hours for kids, but it's also like
that's only who I want reading to my children.
Right, but it's also like it's just like, why are the Teletubbies on Drag Race though? Like, it's like, like, I don't know. It's just
because so many of us are still fans of Drag Race and grew up with the Teletubbies. That is not for current kids.
Yeah.
Do you know of any current children who are watching like Teletubbies, Barney, anything like that we grew up with?
No.
So
I don't.
it was for us, and I think it was for us who do drugs to be like, hey, do you really want to trip out at the bar on a Friday night that's showing Drag Race? You're the friggin' Teletubbies. Now drop this Molly and have a good day. You're like, what? By the way, we don't condone illicit drugging. But so yeah, I think that I think that this is going to be interesting to see how everything moves forward, because like you said, with all the different brackets, there's different levels of favoritism. Like there's the Georges favoritism, but then there's the Ginger favoritism, right? They're very different. You're going to have the people who are sympathy queens in the sense, and I don't mean that in a way to take away from who I think Cynthia for me has probably been like the biggest difference in somebody I've seen do their drag from the last time we saw them on the season. And boy, is she entertaining as hell, in a way that I don't think the show has ever been able to like properly capture before. So when I say sympathy, I'm not trying to diminish her achievements and like how well she has done. But in the sense that like there are going to be people who are like, this is a queen who works damn hard, who is a sweetheart, who is a kind soul, and has been through so much, had somebody who was a friend of theirs that was shot at Pulse, like, just as like the heartbeat of this community in so many ways. So that's what I mean by that. Like you have so many layers of different people, but then there were people like Irene the Alien, for example, who like, because she didn't have much of a time on the show, you feel inherently like it is much more about their actual performance in this show than it is anything else. And it's an interesting dynamic in my mind, because I sit back thinking like, does that mean I inherently think they deserve it more than some of the other queens?
Right.
Or am I putting on a filter that's like, oh, Georges was favored? Well, when I go back and I watch, Georges kind of deserved some, the win. I didn't agree maybe with one of the wins, but I think Georges deserved it, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. It's like a blessing and a curse for every single queen going into this next round.
Yeah. And that's why I'm hoping that it does sort of like I said before, like sort of level it out a bit. I don't know if it will. I'm kind of still more leaning towards that. I think I know who's going to win, and that's okay. Yeah. And addressing that, like, because what you just said about Cynthia, the same thing applies for Ginger. Like Ginger is such a light in the community, and so on one hand, of course you want to see somebody like Ginger succeed. I just think from a storytelling perspective, from me, it's always been the thing that has annoyed me, because it doesn't make me upset. I'll never be upset at Drag Race. What annoys me about Drag Race is just that it's, when you repeatedly bring certain people back, the trend is that person is going to be the one that eventually wins. It doesn't always happen that way, because Jujubee is certainly an example, but it appears that way a lot of the time. And, it just doesn't make so much for exciting competition. That's all. But, at the same time, this just kind of speaks to like, well, bitch, y'all should have crowned Ginger win the first fucking time.
Or
how about that?
Y'all should go back to having an all-stars season. It's a novel idea where we bring back people that we think should have won the crown, and they're the ones who compete.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, could you imagine a season that was Jujubee, Ginger, George?
Like, because y'all wouldn't have to. Ginger wouldn't have to keep clocking in if y'all would hire more people.
Hello.
Hire more people and then have your staff of all stars. But y'all just keep recycling and say this is what's making drag queens leave the drag race community. Okay, they're burnt out. They're old. There's a drag queen shortage.
Maddie morphosing it. Okay. No. But no, it's so true. Like, don't get me wrong. I think we've all grumble about All Stars now, but it's not nearly the narrative that it used to be, which is like, bitch, some stars. What are we talking about, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like this format, again, just to go back to this season, like I feel like did kind of soften that a lot.
Yeah.
But it's like, if you're going to bring somebody back, if you're going to bring Roxy Andrews back for the third season, right? If you're going to bring back these queens, and that's another person that, there's a lot of people who loved that Angeria won and thought that she should have won. There was a lot of people that felt like Roxy should have won and was robbed, and that Angeria should definitely not have won. Like it's a variety of opinions, right?
Yep.
But again, it's like, okay, who's the queen that they're going to bring back in a couple seasons? Who's the next Roxy, so that they know to crown that queen next time, right? Like it's like, that's what I feel like it feels like with Drag Race sometimes.
Like a pull and a push. Yeah.
But going back to this week in this bracket, I said like 10 minutes ago, we'll talk about the last bracket at that. No, we'll just finish all that now. We'll do a recap now. But so they give their points away. And as you had talked about, Aman, Daya gives her point to Cynthia. Alyssa gives her point to Cynthia. We have point gate between Alyssa and Daya, which I kind of also think I think Daya is very sensitive as a person. And that's, and I would not be shocked if they are neurospicy like I am, because I think sometimes it's the literalism with the semantics that she's getting caught up on that I identify with from an ADHD, possibly autistic perspective. So like, definitely understand where she's coming from there. That said, I feel like she also knows how to get her time on camera. And I kind of felt like some of this has just been like, well, it's boring in here. I can make sure that I'm on camera at least for a significant portion of the episode.
And I hope so, because telling Alyssa like, oh, my trust is shattered. Like, I don't know if I can trust you moving forward. Points matter. I'm like, what, bitch? Black lives matter. Points, fuck points. Like, get out of here. The points matter to me. So
this isn't Whose Line Is It Anyway, where the points don't matter. Okay. Could you imagine if she had said that?
And I just love the juxtaposition of it all, because she is clearly like here, and Alyssa is like, girl, shut up. Do your makeup. Like, I gave the point to Cuckoo. It is what it is. Like, let's move on.
It was so iconic, because Alyssa just did not care. And I was here for it. I loved that she didn't even like really get that worked up. She got annoyed, worked up, but not like worked up like she was genuinely angry. She was just more like, why is this a conversation? And I'm here for that energy. We also get some, some people who was it Alyssa? I think Alyssa was the one that said that she didn't think that Ginger should have been in the top last week, and felt like it was favoritism and such. And so that's what I meant when I had the whole ramble in the very beginning. Like, we're getting it on camera, guys. Like, finally, we're having like what feels like a more genuine feeling of a storyline, rather than like Daya feels forced for a storyline. Alyssa felt real, because it's like what we're all experiencing on the outside too, right? So I loved having that moment, and I agreed with Ginger being like, I felt like very invalidating of what I've done. I understand that perspective. I also lived for Denali being like, girl, shut up. You have won 2 like in this confessional, right? I'm like,
right.
Yeah, because I'm like, yes, you're all dramatic as hell. This is absolutely the television I want.
Yes. It was a bunch of queens, a bunch of men in wigs arguing about this, that, or the other, or people who I won't say all men in wigs. I'm not sure how everyone identifies actually. But I also appreciated that Ginger, she said her piece. She was like, that did really feel kind of shitty. Like, that kind of sucked. Like, I felt like you were telling me that, that like fuck my drag essentially, which isn't what Alyssa really was saying. Alyssa just felt like somebody else did better than you that week, Ginger, and that's okay, which is kind of what Denali was getting at. And then at the end of it, Ginger, when they get paired up, Ginger's like, you know, like at the end of the day, like I did want to express it, but at the same time, my confidence is not your concern. So when I was like, that's a very healthy way to have that. It's like, yes, like say your piece. It's okay to feel slighted, but if as long as you can hold that truth and also know the truth in that Alyssa's not here to prop you up either. Production's doing it for you. So you know, you can't have your cake and eat it too, Ginge. Okay.
You know what though? I was literally thinking this when she had the conversation with Alyssa to try to like diffuse tension so that both her and Alyssa can focus on the task at hand and throw, you know, whatever. Every time Ginger has come back, we have seen a more healed version of her than like the most insecure that she's been on the show was season 7 when she, in my opinion, probably should have won the crown, but also who would she be as an artist if she did win the crown then, right? So I do genuinely think like she did not have a lot of the confidence in really pushing herself in these different directions, and there was a lot of things that are probably, not to psychoanalyze, but like trauma based in the invalidation of her experience, that a lot of people who are like her as a, you know, a queen, or I believe Ginger's non-binary out of drag. So somebody with a gender identity journey, somebody with a sexual identity journey, somebody who is from a racial marginalized identity or a disability, all those different things. It's been kind of great seeing her come back for 4 seasons and see her handle conflict differently. Yeah. And I don't mean that from like let's just like take all the fun out of it. No, like she's still confronting people. She's still having feelings that people may or may not agree about, or might be like, girl, please, or being like, you know what, I see that, or identify with it. And I genuinely think like that's one of the benefits of having some queens on who have had the story arc of being on the first season. They were the queen who outshone everybody in acting challenges and everything, but half the fandom hated them because they thought that they were a bitch. Yeah. And then they came back and they quote unquote flopped immediately in All Stars 2. Then they came back and almost won the crown again, but they just felt like there was something just holding back. So it's just like every version of the art that we're getting is another reflection of that person, you know, out of drag. Yeah. And I love showing younger people, as well as people our age and older, that it is okay to address how you are dealing with conflict and things coming against you or your own insecurities. It's okay to take a little bit of what RuPaul says when he's playing therapist and actually, you know, work on yourself and go to therapy and do these things. And then you'll be surprised how much your art grows from that, or how much you grow as a professional or as a friend or whatever from it. And I just wanted to say off of all of that, like that really got me thinking about that, especially with Ginger, when I was watching that moment with her and Alyssa.
Yeah. I think that helps people receive your feelings or your thoughts or your opinions better. Like when you approach it with like, you know, this is how you made me feel. I understand why you felt the way that you felt. And I hear you, but it still hurt a little bit. Like, and that hurt my feelings a little bit. And I feel like people receive that a lot better than being like, bitch, you like, oh, so fuck my drag, bitch. Is that what you're saying? Like people are going, or you catch more, what is it? Flies with honey.
Yes. So, than vinegar.
So there you go. Yeah.
But well, think about it. When people come at you that way, your fight or flight kicks in. And more often than not, fight is the one that comes up because you're not physically in danger, but you're like, bitch, I'm gonna push back. Like, what the hell? Yeah. I'm gonna be defensive. I'm not gonna be open to the other side of it is very hard to get that. I think that's malignant.
Oh, no. Amygdala.
Isn't that your fight or flight? Like, or no, that's your that's the emotional response to stuff. But right, yeah, I can't remember. But there's the part, whatever, just the fight or flight. It's like it's hard. You see it mostly with toddlers, but it's hard for like the rational side of their brain to work at the same time because like the synapses haven't been formed or whatever. I think most adults, I think we're fooling ourselves if we think that we easily can have those two firing off at the same time. It is very hard. It takes a level of self-discipline to be able to sit back and be like, I'm going to actively calm down the side of my brain that is telling me to go off on this bitch so that I don't escalate things and make it worse for no reason. That is something that's inherently super hard to see. So watching somebody who had that come back and like, I don't know, just showcase that like they're better in so many aspects of their lives too from that, I think is just a really powerful thing. But.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So after all the points get awarded, they are all lined up clearly by production, told them who to stand next to whom. Like, it's not like they weren't, and by the way, here you go. And also, it's well known ahead of time, right? That they would have like, hey, you're going to be a poodle. So for a challenge, so get something made that's a poodle. Like, there's no way they just had those, or they maybe were told they were going to do a dog runway, and then based off of the dog runway they brought, that's what the character was written. I don't know.
Somebody was briefed some way, somehow, somewhere.
Yeah. So they line them all up. And the first pair, we finally get Acid and Cynthia together as a duo. And then you have Alyssa and Ginger, who just have their own moment. And then Daya and Denali. And I don't think that the pairs mattered as much this time around as they did in All Stars 3, where I felt like the pairs were much more impactful on how the people were doing in their performance. So I don't really think that it was like, oh, this pair was so much better than this one. That's not how I felt about it. I genuinely kind of felt like there were individual performances that stood out for good and bad reasons. How do you feel about that, Aman?
Yeah, I felt like there were definitely some pairs that had a bit more chemistry than others. I do think that there was some it looked like there was like, you could tell when there was like concerted effort between the two to sort of try and volley with one another. Like you could tell that Acid and Cynthia were trying, like Acid was trying to set Cynthia up for a couple of jokes. I don't necessarily know if we saw much of Cynthia doing the same back to Acid, but I did feel like Acid was like a little bit more of the capable one to volley in general. So it looked like they were trying to like help each other shine in that moment. I think the same thing for Daya and Denali. It looked like the two of them it looked like they had pre-planned, let's have this loose script of, the two of us are actually more into each other than we are to Zayn. And I felt like I liked that as a concept. I just don't necessarily know if either of them really had the execution to really make it funny. I think that Daya's characterization just wasn't really funny at all. I think that the bitchiness, like I felt like I was like, you're more of a bitch naturally than you are when you're trying to act like a bitch.
I mean,
like, what's the problem here? You were just doing it in the workroom like 20 minutes ago. Like, sis, what's the problem? Whereas with Denali's characterization, I really enjoyed what she had going on with like being the British Cocker Spaniel, being the emotional, like nervous wreck herself. I thought that was a funny approach. I think she lost it a little bit when she was in the hot tub with Daya, and I feel like them trying to like do this thing back and forth. I was like, I'm losing that characterization, whereas I felt like you were the stronger of the two separately, and then when you came together, I lost a bit of it. And then finally with Ginger and Alyssa, I feel like the two of them kind of worked together the least out of the three pairs. I feel like they both sort of had like their own thing that they were trying to convey. Obviously, Alyssa had a lot of props with the kids, trying to, really play that up, but I feel like the joke really didn't go anywhere beyond I'm a single mother with kids. Look at all my puppies. You're going to be the future daddy. Like that's kind of all she went with. And then with Ginger, obviously she had a lot more jokes pre-planned, but it's the same thing that we always kind of critique Ginger for, was like sometimes it can be a little canned because you're so professional that you know what you're doing. And I laughed. I mean, I laughed regardless, but I was like, I mean, yeah, this doesn't really feel like improv because I feel like you came up with all these jokes beforehand, and that it is what it is.
Agreed.
But, like, the characterization of it is also like, that's still something that you really can't teach people, and she's such an actress that like she like regardless of whether or not it was scripted or improv or not, it was still funny. So I totally out of the characterization out of all of these people, Ginger, bar none, did the best job. So I think for sure she should have been in the top two. Now the other person that should have been in the top two, definitely debatable. Don't think by any means that it should have been Daya based off of what we saw. Because
Right.
again, I don't know if the editing is just weird and Daya did a much better job than what we were shown, but I didn't laugh at a single thing Daya did at all.
I didn't find her funny. I felt like she had the best physicality, like the little shakes and stuff, but it wasn't making it nervous. And like Denali had the second best physicality. There was like Ginger was giving me, oh, what's his name? He passed away a long time ago. This is going to be
Saint
so
Bernard that
awful,
passed
but
away.
she gave me very like the guy the guy who plays Uncle Buck.
Oh, John Farley? No.
What was it? Sorry.
Did I say why is the name John Farley coming to mind? Is that him?
John Candy,
John Candy.
right?
Is it John? It's definitely Candy. Candy's the last
Definitely
name.
Candy, right? So she gave me a lot of like that energy.
I love
Like,
Uncle
have
Buck.
you seen like Spaceballs? It was very like his dog character, and that's what it came across to me as. Like, everybody else really looked like the breed that they were, and she
Mhm.
was more like, I'm a man as a dog who's a woman. Like, it was like, I don't know. It was just a different comedy that was funny, but it wasn't like, I felt like the other ones were really dogs. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Like, she felt like a man playing a dog playing a woman. It was just like wild. So, and I'm not saying that the layers were like so impressive. I'm saying that she just inherently did it differently than other people.
Mhm.
I felt like Daya wasn't funny, but the characterization was there and it was watchable. It
Mhm.
wasn't like she flopped or
Yeah.
anything.
No.
But I don't
No
think she should have won either. If I'm going for characterization, somebody who stole the scenes from what they were in and everything, like I'm looking at Denali and Acid as like my top two.
Mhm.
And then also we'll factor in the runway. So why don't we bring up the runways and we can talk about each queen, just generally how they did in the performance and then the look themselves, and then we can kind of go through it that way. So first up, so the runway this week was paper dolls or something. So it's paper that has been made into couture outfits. Now we did have the paper ball back in I was gonna say 2000 instead of season 8. Back in season 2016. I mean season 8. So I always thought that was such a cool ball challenge, but I'm happy that they're bringing a paper runway to this. And I thought it was really, really cool. So Alyssa Hunter was the first one on the runway. And by the way, I am sharing it's the video that the RuPaul's Drag Race official Twitter account or X account tweeted, because I cannot find the outfits anywhere. And I figured I would just do freeze frames here. So I wanted to make sure I credited the source that we're looking at here. But Alyssa Hunter was the first one out. I know that she said that this was an outfit inspired by a kind of Puerto Rican, I don't remember if it's
I can't remember either, and I'm not
it
gonna.
was like made out of paper mache. I remember, and she said that it weighed a ton and all that stuff, but I can't remember what the tradition is, and I apologize. And I would love for people in the comments to please, on the YouTube video, please, please, please remind me what that was. But I thought this was really sickening. I love this look. Alyssa has been serving out on the runway as I thought she would. Love this hair. She has such a dramatic face painted as well. Like she always looks like she simultaneously is like Eva Peron and like a woman from Dynasty at the same time. Like she's so interesting to me, and how she paints and such. But I felt, what a beautiful way to blend your culture with color and shape and paper and texture. And it was just such a really cool, well done outfit. What were your thoughts on her runway?
Yeah, I enjoyed the runway too. It looked very well crafted. It looked very heavy and just like a lot of care and precision went into the molding of it. I think that paper is always just so interesting because you can literally do anything you want to it. It's very malleable, and it just makes for fantastic art. Um, I like I said, I guess I kind of went through all the queens already, in terms of their performance, but I'll just briefly say that I think I liked, you know, where she was going with being a pretty much a slut of a mom and already having a bunch of puppies, a whole litter already, or like literally have her baby suckling at her at her teat, as she's trying to get a stepdaddy for them. I just think that that's the furthest that it went. I wish there was just a bit more to do with that, and I just feel like she didn't really do much else past that.
She's the one that makes me think that they had dog runways that they were told they had to make, and then she made hers like that, and then they said, okay, this is actually for a challenge and based off of your looks, because like I just have a feeling that they went through what people brought for their outfits and then was like, okay, well, you put a whole bunch of puppies on like all these titties as like a reveal for the runway. So now we're gonna be like, she's the one that made me really think that. Because I agree. I don't really see that she went to a lot of places. She didn't really do anything with Ginger. I mean, Ginger made side comments, as I imagine Ginger always does, like in Snatch Game. She's always really quick on her feet. We like knew that about her.
Yeah.
But I didn't even really think that I don't think that Ginger played well with Alyssa either. I don't think Ginger set her up for anything. Ginger just found opportunities for her to shine, which she should do. I mean, quite frankly, it's competition. But I don't think Alyssa was also given much to like go off of. I felt like they were the weakest pair together in terms of working off of each other. But I do think that Ginger was stronger than somebody else as well, besides just Alyssa. Next up, we have, so I'm just going to skip ahead. Oh, look at these wonderful.
Oh, those shoes are so cool.
So we have Ginger Minge. Oh my gosh, what a still this is. Ginger Minge coming out in a Shakespearean inspired look, very Elizabethan, of her taking any pages and recopying them over in her own ways, different kinds of printing and rewriting it. Any of the plays, sonnets that Shakespeare has written that has anything to do with playing with gender, dressing as a boy, as a girl, using drag, where they say dressing as a girl, using that definition that Shakespeare in that time came up with. And then having this dress made out of it. I don't know what the fuck Michelle was going off about. Like, first of all, Marie Antoinette was French, and this is Elizabethan and British. So, like, what are you talking about? Like, she brought up the Marie Antoinette thing here, and not even with Acid, who actually was Marie Antoinette at first. And then she just had to, like, anyway, I did say that earlier. I'm like, okay, shut up. Period clothing is important for us to see represented in different ways because it is history that has led to this point. I am not going to shut down. Stop doing the same thing. Michelle, stop wearing fucking leather and earrings. Like, who cares, right? Anyway, especially when it's well done. This was well done. I think this is one of my favorite outfits or runways I think that Ginger's ever done. In terms of the acting challenge, I think I pretty much said all my thoughts. What were your thoughts on her runway?
There must have been some queen back in New York City in the 80s that did Marie Antoinette or some competition that she saw a bunch of Marie Antoinette over and over again, because the ire that Michelle has for the queens doing Marie Antoinette looks is so crazy. Because I can't think of any off the top of my head, but there has to be other repeated genres or looks or silhouettes on the stage, not just Marie Antoinette, that they do all the time, that I don't think that Michelle talks about.
Hello. I mean, how many times do we see something that's Bob Mackie inspired? How many times do we see things that you were literally bringing on, on the finales to teach us a little bit about, drag culture and history and significant icons who were like queer icons and such? It is so hypocritical for the show to be like, stop showing us these things when we're all sitting here being like, bitch, stop showing us Cher and show us like, I don't know, Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like
There we
show
go.
us people who are more modern, who are those who are potentially going to have aspects of their career emulated for the next couple of generations. Show that you're current. And yeah, bringing on Chapel Rowan and, you know, Ice Spice and that kind of thing this season has been a good start, but that's not the same thing as like, you know, validating drag that's inspired by it. But anyway, but I thought this was great. Any other thoughts on Ginger?
I thought, I mean, the look is nice. I do like that, you know, the level of intent that went into it. She said that she found each and every text that had to do with I forget,
drag and
drag, men in wigs, stuff like that,
mistaken identity.
Yeah, anything that had to do with that, she went ahead and retyped it herself, printed it out herself. So I love the level of intent. It does look a little rough, you know, which, you know, you give a little bit of leniency for because it is paper. But then, of course, when you compare it to some of the other constructed looks by her sisters, this one does kind of fall a little bit in that category, only because other ones looked a little bit more refined, even though it was paper. So in that department, she loses some points, but I love the intent and I love the silhouette itself.
Agreed. Next up is Denali, who I think is actually one of the people that, even though the back of the paper for like the feathers is not another color, it's like that white background, it doesn't look like paper, versus you can tell that Ginger's was paper. The point of Ginger's is that it's supposed to look like paper, versus Denali's is supposed to look like feathers. And I thought this, but also fur, like it looks animated. It's actually, I don't know if it's actually supposed to look like feathers. I realize now it was, is it a fox with wings? I actually don't know this this cultural, I know this is a Mexican like fae figure, but I can't, or myth, and I can't remember what the name of this was either. I apologize.
I didn't know that her last name was Fox. I don't know if that just
I remember that for season 13 she was Denali Fox, and then they dropped I think she dropped the Fox before she went on season 13. I can't remember, but
okay. I know, I love the look. I thought that this was beautifully constructed. I think the Fox is just absolutely masterful. I love the way that it swirls all the way down her leg. I do think that the bodice part of it could use a little something.
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe just like a little bit more red, or maybe just a little something, because it does feel a little top heavy. But I think that it's such a beautiful look. And again, I really appreciated what she did in the challenge. I really, when she, all of her confessionals were great. When she first came out to talk to Zayn by herself, I thought that was like probably the best part of the performance for her. I really understood what she was going for. A nervous support animal. Like, I thought that was just a lot of fun. I just wish that she could have carried it through a bit more. I felt like I'm all for the queens trying to help each other and be together and successful as a pair, but I do think both Daya and Denali lost themselves in trying to do that.
I feel like they started to try to go in this direction of making it a threesome, and then it just turned into just the two of them.
Yeah.
I feel like if they had both tried to keep their attention on Zayn, but then, like, I think it would make sense for Daya's character to feel like everybody's obsessed with her. So she, like, turns into a Parvati kind of character where she's just like, I flirt with everyone because I know everybody wants to flirt with me kind of feeling, right? And if Denali's character was very into Zayn and used the emotional support dog stuff to like caress him and do that kind of stuff, and then be nervous because she's starting to feel things for Daya's character, and then realizing, oh, this wasn't the kind of emotional connection I thought it was going to be. I thought it was just going to be him, but now I'm realizing I'm open to both, like, and end up being like a polyamory kind of thing. That I think would have had a direction to take it that had an additional layer that gave them some more to work with. But it felt like they basically were like, what if we just hit on each other? Which is such a low basic thing to do in improv, because it's the easiest way to make a connection with another person, right? If you're not, if your characters aren't related or whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I thought that Denali, I thought that her accent was good. I mean, I say that as a non-Brit. I'm sure Brits were like appalled by it.
Yeah, sure they were like,
I thought it was great. I thought that she kept it up, and I thought she did a great job. I thought that this look was beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next up on the runway is Daya Betty, who comes out in like this. It reminds me of the dress in Cruella. If you guys have seen that, have you seen that, Aman?
I have. I just don't remember which one you're talking about. I haven't seen it in a while. So
it's the dress that like they hide away in the vault, and then it's actually made of all the like moth eggs or something, and like she puts or whatever they are, and when they open the vault, the dress is gone.
Yeah.
This is like what the dress looked like to me a little bit before they all come out of the cocoons and fly around. So it gave me that vibe, which it sounded like she was really into bugs and everything anyway. I thought this was a really cool look.
Yeah, no, I thought it was too. I do love the challenges where they are supposed to make something from a specific material and then you can't tell that it's that material. And looking at this, at first glance, I really can't tell that's paper. It looks like metal to me, or maybe plastic. And so I think it's a beautifully crafted. I love what she does with her hair. I love the ruffled neck. I love the boots. They kind of remind me of the heels that Lady Gaga wears in one of the scenes in the Bad Romance music video. So yeah, very, very, very fun. Again, I've kind of already said my piece about her performance in the challenge.
You know what I hate though, and I also love it, and I hate that I love it, is this stupid ass Courtney Cox Scream 3 bang that she's got going on. If you guys haven't seen the most infamous Courtney Cox haircut of all time, her look in the movie Scream 3 is a treat for you. And while the bangs of this are not as uneven, it gave me that fantasy, and I love it. I hate it. I hate that I love it. It's a whole bunch of emotions that she's brought out. But I did think that this look was really interesting and cool. Very high fashion with like very classical elements, and then mixed in. I'm just going to say it here. I low key think that Daya should explore alternative and like gore kind of drag, because I think that she'd be really creative and interesting. She probably already does, and I have no idea. But what I'm trying to get at is that she should go on Dracula.
Yeah.
So I think she'd be great. Acid Betty comes out with the paper inspired. I'm trying to find a good still here. Sorry. Marie Antoinette outfit, which, we already talked about the comment. I love this. Make the Marie Antoinette look like the cake, and also kind of a paper chandelier look like the table that it's on, look like the cake, look like every element of being in that room where she would supposedly eat cake. This is incredible. I think this looks so cool. She nails this in a way, like this looks like the softest material. It doesn't look like paper. It looks so beautiful. It flows like that. It looks like it was made for something in Beauty and the Beast, right? Like this is so cool. I love this outfit. And between this and the fact that she did such a good job in the challenge, in my opinion, of, being has RuPaul never heard of a switch before in the bedroom?
I guess not, girl.
She's like, well, I was confused because she was a top, and then or a dom, and then she was like a sub, and I was like, yeah, it's called switch play. That's like a lot of people do that. Like, why is that confused? Why were they hung up on that? Is what I want to know. I genuinely felt like Daya was somebody who I don't feel like her story really went anywhere. I'm not going to sit here and pretend like she had like the best characterization and thought out, where she was heading, but the gag didn't get old. And that is a true challenge, I think, in something like this. And I thought that she actually played really well without shaming Cynthia's character as like a really religious kind of chihuahua. Like it would be so easy for the two of their characters to like go after each other and shame, but how refreshing that really wasn't the case in today's day and age, where it's like, hey, people in the fetish community can absolutely like respect people who have very different thoughts about that, and people who have very religious views can just keep their noses out of other people's bedrooms. Like that's great. So I don't know, maybe I'm just like so refreshed by that, Aman.
Yeah, no, like it's I definitely feel like I like that she sort of had like a personal sort of motivation in the characterization that she brought. And I agree with you. I don't think that her character got old. I kept wanting, I was like more interested to see what she was going to say next. And I liked the fact that she sort of, again, that she try to drive the scene forward, because a lot of the time, like, the number one rule in improv is to never say no. And I feel like, and you can do that in more ways than one, by literally saying no, or by choosing not to engage with where your scene partner is trying to take the conversation. And so I feel like kind of like Daya and Denali kind of did a little bit of that when they were engaging more with each other than with Zayn. I'm like, you're shutting down the scene now, because he can't go anywhere with you guys if you're not engaging with him. And so I feel like, Acid here really tried to volley with Cynthia and set her up and try to really engage. Cynthia didn't throw as many bones, but I'm back to her. But, I do think that she stayed in the character. She stayed in the dominatrix part of it. I did agree with RuPaul that there were moments where she was like a little bit submissive, which I get, like, if you are the dominatrix, I get like you kind of just want to go all in on that. But I understand where Acid was also coming from in her delivery. Again, I think that the look itself is absolutely amazing. I do think that she tried to differentiate herself from a lot of the other Marie Antoinette looks by actually giving us a bit more of the storytelling of it, turning around, having the fire, having the burner at the stake type deal, even though she was beheaded, not burned. But they still set the castle on fire and everything. They lit up the Bastille and everything. So I get it. So yeah, I thought that this was fantastic. And the hair as paper, that's probably like the coolest part.
Oh, it's just so cool. Yeah. Also those shoes. I mean, there's no way she could walk without back pain for like 5 days after wearing those.
I really want to try to wear one of those pairs of shoes.
I will only do that if I am surrounded by like padding all over. I will fall on my face.
They just look so cool to me.
They look so interesting. I'm so here for it. Next up, oh yes, Eat the Rich. That was the back of hers. Next up is Cynthia Lee Fontaine. I love this color on her.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
Yeah, it just at first when she first came around, I was like, oh, okay, I like it. And then when the judges sort of like critiqued it, I was like, oh yeah, you know what? This is a little. It kind of just looks like, because you can see those types of things hanging as decorations from the ceiling. It looks like she literally just got a bunch of them.
Yes.
Tied them to the big piece of paper at the top, and that was it.
I want you to know that this looks worse than when I try to decorate a room like this. And that's not hard. It's not easy to like do better than me. It's not hard to do better than me. It is. This looks worse than what I put together, and it's not on my body. I don't know what happened here. I do feel like this, and I mean, if it were like the bag challenge, like the bag ball, and it was La La Ree versus, this look would shoot that into
La
the
La
next
the
entry, right? Like this is
experience.
so much better than that. But this is something they prepared, this is something they brought. I don't know, like yeah. And I think she knew it too. She just kind of was like, yeah, it's okay.
I liked what she did for her character. I do wish there was like a bit more, because she was like, she said that she wanted to go for, obviously Mexican Chihuahua, give all that, Latina spice to it. But also the religious aspect sort of like softens up the character and sort of like have that little bit juxtaposition. I really feel like what would have made it a lot funnier is if she really leaned more into the snappiness of a Chihuahua. Like,
Yeah.
because she was clearly, addressing him and then praying. Like, but it would have been so much funnier, like when every time she addressed him, she's like literally like and then like going crazy and then self-exercising herself, being like, oh, Dios mío. Like, just that would
And
have
then
been
anytime like he tries to like do anything in her direction, that she just like snaps at him.
Yes,
And then
that's
has
what
to pray about it. Like
yes.
it's like the guilt. That's the thing I didn't get. I didn't get that she was praying because of guilt. And like the thing that Catholics are famous and infamous for is guilt.
Mm-hmm.
Like it should be, she snaps at him and then is like, oh no, I'm supposed to be on a date. Lets him pet her. And then she feels guilty for both snapping at him and being pet out of marriage or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yes,
Like
yes.
something like that. And it would have been so funny. But I hate to say it, I think that she was probably the weakest for me in the challenge. I also really didn't like her dog outfit. And it kind of took me out of it. Like I understood what she was going for with the kind of like Virgin Mary-esque looking like outfit for the Chihuahua, but I don't know. It just, and I understand. I'm not mad at the concept. I just didn't like the execution, if that makes sense. But
right, gotcha.
All right, I think that's it. Yes. Okay, great. So we've gone through the runways. As we then get into the top two, ends up being Daya and Ginger, who are the top two. Now, Aman has made it, I think, a little clear that he didn't think that Daya should be in the top two. Did you think that Ginger should be in the top two?
Yeah, I think that like I said before, far and away, I think she just had everything down pat. Yeah. Yes, it was a bit canned, but I think she was the most prepared. I think that she just had a clear vision of the character, and like Mayan Lopez said, like I understood her. Like I knew her when she was performing. In terms of like who I thought should have been next to her, I would have been fine with. I think I would have been fine with Denali, only because, again, I feel like her characterization just made more sense to me.
Yeah.
And I think that she had more chemistry with Daya than Acid and Cynthia had with one another. But if not Denali, then Acid, probably, for me. So
I feel like if they judged it, and I don't think they did, I feel like if they judged it as pairs, those two should have been the top two pairs. Daya and Denali should have been the top two.
Mm-hmm.
If they judged it as individuals, I felt like Ginger and Acid, or any combination of Ginger, Acid, and Denali would have been the three that I would have gone for. I just felt like even though the story didn't go someplace, Denali and Daya were at least playing with each other.
Yeah.
In a way that was interesting to watch. I felt like Acid and Cynthia were trying to find a way to work with each other. And I feel like Ginger and Alyssa weren't trying at all. Yeah. And so I felt confident as a viewer, even if I didn't laugh, I felt confident watching Daya and Denali in a way I didn't feel with the other pairs. But individually, I just felt like I enjoyed Acid, Denali, and Ginger the best in terms of characterization, the jokes, their outfits, everything. And then in terms of Runway, I loved all three of Denali, Ginger, and Acid. So any number of those three could have been my top three.
Yeah, I agree.
Going into the lip sync, we have Ginger versus Daya. And Ginger loses her first lip sync this time, Aman. And and Daya gets her second win and a lip sync win. And I'm really excited for her, but I'm like, girl, all that energy and for what? This whole episode.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly. I thought that they both did good jobs in the lip sync. I would have been really fine with either one of them taking it. But yeah, it's these points at the end really were sort of the nail biter, and we kind of touched on that at the beginning, but like, it's hard to be mad about Cynthia making it through, right?
No.
It is what it is, right? And how well do I feel like she'll do matched up with the rest of the queens? I really don't know. I can't say. I think Snatch Game is literally next, I think. So
yeah, Snatch Game is next week.
She could do a good job. Like I said, I think that, like you said before, I think Cynthia has really shown a lot of growth this season. I think that we've seen a lot more of how her mind works going into these challenges and how she's been setting goals. And I think that last week's episode was really a strong indicator of like how much of a performer she is. I didn't even know that Cynthia could really sing like that. And she sounded great last week, and the performance was great last week. So she's definitely in there as someone that can walk the talk, walk the walk rather. So I'm excited to see how she does.
Me too. I'm nervous about her for Snatch Game just because I felt like she didn't do the improv as incredibly well this week. But when it's a character that she studied a little bit more, maybe it'll be different. So I'm interested to see how she does in Snatch Game. We will not figure out the lip sync person who didn't go into the semifinals until I think the finale. So I don't think we will find that out next week. They didn't tease that at all. So it's not like they add them here. It does sound like they do this is clear from what RuPaul said all season. It's just like, my mind was still a little like, does that mean they're going to compete in all 10, or do they only come back for the lip sync Lollapalooza? It looks like they only come back for the lip sync Lollapalooza for sure.
Yeah.
So that will be next week. We're going to have the merge, the jury phase, the whatever you want to call it. The semifinals is what they're calling it on the Drag Race All-Stars 10 production notes. I am interested to see how Snatch Game goes. I kind of feel like it's Ginger's to lose, but I think we've seen that Bosco and Irene have come to play. I think Aja was robbed on All Stars 3 for her. I think that she absolutely should have been a winner in All Stars 3 for the Snatch Game. Did we see if it's regular Snatch Game or if it's Snatch Game of Love or if it's something different?
I can't remember. I don't think we did. I think
if we did, comment that in the comments below if you don't mind, just because I will forget to look it up, and then I will come and look at the comments and go, oh yes, thank you so much, audience people, I love it. But yeah, so I'm excited. I kind of hope it's regular Snatch Game and not Snatch Game of Love, but if it's Snatch Game of Love, that would also make sense why it's 9 queens, so 3, 3, and 3, so do 3 rounds of it. But
yeah
I don't know. All right, what are your predictions for next week, Aman? Who do you think is going to win? Who do you think is going to go home?
I really have no idea. I'll go Ginger as a stock answer for winning the challenge. For going home, I do think that Cynthia still is at risk. I think Mistress could be at risk too, because I don't think that she really did a great job with her Snatch Game.
Yeah, she just basically did herself as Rosie O'Donnell, right?
Yeah, there was like nothing to it.
But it wasn't like RuPaul didn't like it the way that he likes Candy doing anything is just Candy.
Yeah.
You know what Candy Muse, I mean? So I could see that. I'm nervous for Lydia.
I forgot what did Lydia do? I can't even remember.
Lydia did David Lynch.
Oh yeah, well she got a couple laughs in
She got
there.
a couple laughs, but I mean, like in comparison to the group, I think I'm
Yeah,
most concerned for
yeah, they're
Cynthia
definitely
and Lydia.
yeah, yeah.
Um, yeah, I think that they're the two I'm most concerned about. Daya was one of what 10 people who had to do the lip sync Lollapalooza because season 14 Snatch Game sucks so bad. Um, I don't think that Georges has been good in any Snatch Game, but RuPaul really liked her last year for no reason, in my opinion. So I don't think that she'll go home, but I don't think she's going to do well.
Yeah, yeah.
So, or she's going to be so bad. It's funny, like Lexi Love this past season of regular Drag Race.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's really going to come down to their characters as well. Like, who did you choose your character wisely, and like, does it match up well with the rest of what everybody else has got going on? So we'll
We'll
see.
see. I can't wait to see how this turns out. But until then, we've made it through all the brackets. So we are going to be moving forward with the top queens, the top half of the queens from this season, and see how they navigate the next couple of episodes before the finale, which is, as we know, a lip sync Lollapalooza. Aman, is there anything we missed from this episode that you want to discuss?
No, I think that's it for me.
Awesome. What are you up to, and where can people find you?
You can find me everywhere at Aman Adwin. I am gearing up for Big Brother 27, but until then, you can always still check me out over at the Diary Room podcast with me and Matt Lagordi, where we have been trying to dwindle down all of the North American players of Big Brother, spinoff, and main series alike to determine who is the best player of all time. We are still in round one, bracket one, as it were. So make sure that you check us out over there wherever you get your podcasts if you'd like to listen or view.
Yeah. How much longer do you think bracket one will take you guys?
Well, we just got to the halfway point about a month and a half ago. So that means that we've got about a year left.
So yeah, this is like the perfect time to start listening. If you love Big Brother or want to get into Big Brother, you want to understand some of the lore, the characters, what a great time to start following the Diary Room podcast and getting a whole bunch of episodes that you can catch up on and not feel like you're starving for stuff. But at the same time, you can keep up with it and have a lot to look forward to. So definitely check out Aman and Matt Lagori's podcast there. It is almost the beginning of the month. So we encourage you all to become patrons, especially what an exciting year knowing that Rob is going to be on The Traitors season 4. So what a great time to join as an RHAP patron with a whole bunch of different benefits that you can lock in at those different patron levels. You can catch me at AugustaWind11 on my Instagram, and you can also follow me on Blue Sky at Beth-Dixon. And I'm not really up to anything. I'm just, talk about Drag Race with Aman, and I know I'll talk a little bit about Big Brother this season. So I'm excited to, dip my toe back into the BB streets. If the season sucks, it's because I started watching it, and I will immediately stop people so that you guys can all be entertained. So I will take that bullet if we need to. But that said, thank you to all of the production help, RHAP behind the scenes, and we will see you all next week. Bye.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.